everyone, and happy Tuesday. How are you guys doing today? We want to welcome you to Let's Be Real. We hope you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday, full of joy, enjoying this rain. If you're here in the Bay Area, if you're here in Oakley, Bain Point, Brentwood, I know Santa Rosa, it's also raining a little bit, so let's enjoy this rain. I know they said it was going to rain this whole week, but you know what? Rain is good, and we need to receive it, enjoy it, because it's a blessing from God. Amen.
Amen. So today I got some random facts. Actually, I was looking at our podcast platform on the Anchor website, and so we uploaded a couple of episodes already. But so far, the one that has had the most plays was the one titled "Life Is Sometimes Stressful." It has 18 plays.
Dang.
Now
but life is stressful.
Yeah, and the ones coming in second place are the one titled "Trusting in God in These Times" and the one titled "Lonely," which has 14 plays. So in a sense, I guess you could say that all of us are in need.
Yeah.
All of us are in need of God, and so right now I kind of feel that we need to encourage you guys, give you guys some hope, give you guys some words of love, of encouragement. And so today's episode is going to be interesting. We have it titled as New Seasons and Change.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about today, because we all know, last year was a big change for us. We started off the year excited, ready for 2020 vision. I remember profoundly how everyone was talking about that, like youth groups, churches, even just people outside. Like everyone was so excited because it was 2020. And then from one day to another, our lives completely changed and nobody was ready for it. And I think nobody was ready or expected what was going to come. I remember hearing about this virus. I remember about hearing something in China and a bunch of other stuff, but never in my mind or never in a million years would I have imagined what was to come. How schools would shut down, jobs would shut down. Like, our whole world was put to a halt because of this virus.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, like, what are we gonna do? What's gonna happen? There was no food. Like, we had a shortage of a bunch of supplies. We had a shortage of, like, toilet paper, which I honestly, still to this day, that's super random.
Yeah.
Out of all the things that people would want to, like, get a lot of, and never in my mind would I have thought toilet paper, but I guess whatever floats your boat. Okay, if that's what you wanted, I guess. But hey, there was even Clorox wipes and everything, because people were afraid. People were afraid. They didn't know, like, even now in 2021, like, we don't know much about this virus. We're still learning about it. So people are scared, but I think when all this change happened, people got scared and people didn't know how to react, because in general, as humans, I think there's a very large negative connotation to change. We think of change as a bad thing, when in reality, I like to look at change as something good. Yeah. We can learn from change. Change is something that will teach us a lot, and I think will allow us to grow spiritually. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What is change? How can we deal with change? New seasons, like, why shouldn't we look at them in a bad way, and what can we learn from them?
Yeah, so basically right now, I guess you could say I'm going through a change in my life, from being in school all the time to also, I'm, like I said in previous episodes, episodes, that I'm going to graduate this May coming up of this year. And so it's going to be a change for me because, being in school since,
for a long time,
since kindergarten all the way up until this year. This is going to be my last year of being in school, unless, God in the future wants me to return for something else. But it's going to be a change for me, because I'm going to start going into the real world, being employed, start having more responsibilities, helping my parents out, with bills and all this stuff. So it's going to be something different, but I believe, that God's going to help us through it, because I know some brothers, I talk with adults sometimes too from church, and they're like, enjoy your youth, because that's the best time of your life, because once you become an adult, everything gets boring or whatever. They make it seem like it's a bad thing, but to be honest, I feel like every moment of your life is a blessing, and you have the option to enjoy it. It's just up to you if you want to enjoy it or not.
Yeah, definitely. There's different seasons to life, like you said. Now you're transitioning from, like, being, I think, under your parents' wing,
Yeah.
you know, like having your responsibilities, and now you're like having more responsibilities on your own, which isn't a bad thing, you know. Everyone has different opportunities. In my case, it's a little bit different. I think when I graduated high school, I started working right away.
Yeah.
So I did go to college. I am still in college, but I had to work and pay rent for a while. So now I'm just working, not paying rent. But even still, you know, this change can be like, sometimes it happens so fast that we have no time to prepare for these changes.
Yeah.
But you know, God is there to help us with these changes, to help us understand, to help us cope with new seasons. I know people, when they hear the word change, it's like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen? Like we're gonna change jobs, like, oh, it's gonna be hard. Like I wonder if they're gonna pay me the same, or you're gonna change schools, you're gonna change from this to this. Like it can be hard.
Yeah.
You know, in life as teenagers, I feel when you're having that transition, even from like elementary to middle school to high school, it's hard.
Yeah.
Because you're used to a certain environment, and then you transition to a whole nother one, in an environment you're not used to, and maybe with people that you're not used to, maybe with having responsibilities that you're not used to, and you have to get used to that, you know.
Yeah.
But change is something that will allow you to grow. And I know
Definitely.
that when we look at change, we often think of it as a negative thing,
Yeah.
right? But I want to encourage you tonight that when you think of change, that you are reminded that God allows change to happen for us to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many different like seasons of change, right? So like you said, you're transitioning from being in school to going to work now.
Yeah.
But maybe you're a college student, right? And you have the same transition as Luis. Maybe you're about to get married. I don't know, right? We have different ages, different people
About
tuning
to have
in
kids
tonight.
or something.
Yeah, about to have kids. Maybe you're going middle school to high school, or even now, guys, like maybe throughout your whole life you were not a big technological person, and now having to use technology like for COVID reasons is, oh my gosh. I know that has been a change that I have dealt with, and I am not a fan of. I will tell you that, okay? Like, it is very difficult when you're not used to technology. And funny enough, I learned how to code when I was younger in high school. And I still don't know that much about technology.
That's
so
crazy.
Only the Lord knows, right? But hey, I appreciate that change, because now I noticed that even for our church, we're using more technology. So now I know a little bit more, and I can help in any way that is needed. I can help with what is required, and I'm starting to understand now why change was needed.
Yeah.
And I want to share a big change that happened, because as we all know, COVID hit, and a lot of us believers, I think we're all in a limbo, like, are we going to go back to church? Are we going to have services? I know a lot of churches were shut down during this quarantine, a lot of them. And a lot of people sadly lost their home church.
Yeah.
And I am so blessed that God gave us Templo Santo, that we are a part of this wonderful family, that we have the blessing of being able to broadcast our services, not only now to people here in the Bay Area, but people all around the world, globally. And I think that was a big help for us, during the pandemic, and even still going on. But I remember thinking, what is going to happen to my faith?
Yeah.
Because now my faith was really on me.
Yeah.
Now my faith wasn't dependent on, what is pastor going to preach on Sunday? It wasn't on what are they going to teach on Wednesday midweek service? It was really, what am I going to do to get closer to God?
Amen.
So, I remember that for a while I kind of had felt distant from God, and we shared this in a couple of podcasts ago where, funny enough, we all felt the same way. We had felt distant, but this pandemic really pushed us to seek God and to put our faith in Him and to trust Him. And that change in the moment, it might have felt hard, it might have felt difficult, it might have felt like, God, what are you doing? I don't understand, because right now you feel so far away, or I don't understand what's happening. But now I can see it was for the better. It was so I could grow spiritually. It was so I could really be bold for Christ this year. Now I see that God has to prepare us first in our own faith for us to be firm in Him, not in anything else. Because as we saw, if we had our faith in maybe our job, if we had our faith in our families, if we had our faith in like anything else that was of God, we saw that everything was taken away so like in a moment, in an instant. And we see that God is the only thing that will never fail us, the only thing that will always be there, be steady for us. So he is our firm foundation, and that is what I think a big change that I had to go through, but that now I see the outcome and I understand. I'm like, Lord, I know that you taught me so much through this season.
Yeah.
Even though you don't understand. And there's certain seasons that are full of joy, but there's other seasons that I think we can see as like a spiritual desert that a lot of believers go through. I think after they come to church for a while and they're like serve, and I think it's the adrenaline of being like, it's something new. I'm very happy. But then there comes a moment where you're like, you don't maybe feel that same desire. You maybe don't feel that same passion. You maybe don't feel that same strive to like go to church. And in those moments, that's a season of change because it's changing what you're used to.
Yeah.
But see, you cannot grow without change.
Mm-hmm.
That is why, like I said earlier, we shouldn't see change as a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think we can share maybe a story of like how we've maybe undergone change or how we've come out of that season of feeling like that. I don't know if you have anything to share about that, Luis.
Not really, but I was kind of wanted to share something else. Last season, I was thinking, last year was basically a season of growing, of a season of patience, a season of where, like Abby was saying, it is up to us to seek God and to see, what we're really about. And so in that last year, we were, forced in a way to read the word on ourselves, to grow spiritually by ourselves, not only depend on, like she was saying, pastors' preachings on Sunday, but more of us, seeking God in our own time. And also in this new season, this new year coming up, I believe that this is a new season where the youth is going to rise up. Many people are going to come back to Christ and, grow that passion for him once again. And, we're going to start spreading the gospel. And I could already see that in social media platforms. Like we mentioned a lot. We mentioned TikTok, and that's where I see a lot of young people are starting to spread the gospel through TikTok. They're making, Zoom meetings. Christians from all over the world are gathering together, to preach on certain topics. I know right now there's this group that's spreading the gospel and touching the topic of pornography and how it's destroying the youth, and it's making, taking the value of marriage and all that stuff. And I find it interesting and powerful, that the youth is rising up, because normally, we're waiting for the adults to be the one to start the preaching, start that act, and to be the ones, showing the youth how it's done. But sometimes, the adults need help as well. So I feel like it's both. The adults and the youth, we should both rise up. And I have a verse that I wanted to share at this moment, and it's in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12 to 16, and it says, verse 12, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, in purity. Until I come, devote yourselves to the public readings of scripture, to preaching and to teaching. Do not neglect your gift, which was given you through prophecy when the body of elders laid their hands on you. Be diligent in these matters. Give yourself wholly to them so that everyone may see your progress. Watch your life and doctrine closely. Preserve in them, because if you do, you will save both yourself and your hearers." And I can see this, through the youth right now, as I was sharing with the TikTok community of the Christians. They're actually putting that into action. They're using their youth, their young age, to spread the gospel. And I know the word, it says that we should serve God in our young years of our youth, because right now we have that passion, right now we have that energy, right now we don't have that much responsibility. Like right now I was sharing, right now I'm just, in school, and so I have all of this time to prepare these messages, be involved in all of these ministries. Like I mentioned, I'm in the worship team, I'm here in the radio. I sometimes, bring devotionals to the youth on Fridays. And so as you could see, many of us have all this free time, and I feel like for those that have that free time as well, and for those that want to seek God, should also, take that upon themselves to read the Word, gain that wisdom, or that word to spread to those, your family members, your friends, your cousins. And I know I was sharing in previous episodes as well that right now I kind of need to work on spreading the gospel to my family members because they're Catholic. And when we hang out, the thing that we talk about is, just regular stuff, about soccer, movies, and just regular stuff, but we never bring up God. And so I want to make it my goal this year, to probably bring a devotional to them, share the gospel with them, probably even have share with them the type of music that I listen to, and probably like that they'll get to know God and see how passionate I am about God, and then probably spread that passion and make it be contagious, so they could also, desire to be Christian, or to have that relationship with God.
Definitely. I like that you're saying, about really using the spiritual gifts that you have. And, we're talking about seasons of change. This year, we mentioned at the beginning of the year, it's for us to really be bold for Christ. And bold, maybe we weren't like that last year. Maybe, we were afraid to speak about God to our friends, to our family. And I like that you bring up that, actually, because I agree. When I'm with my family, I don't usually bring up God. It's usually just us talking about, like you said, life, school, work, or just everything but God. But really, if we aren't the ones talking to them about God, who is going to be doing that,
Yeah.
God is giving us the opportunity to be bold for him this year, and things have to change. Things have to be different. We have to be prepared for what God, wants us to do for his kingdom. If you never know, you are the only one that knows what gift it is that God has given you.
Yeah.
I was sharing with Luis, it's such a joy to see our young people here from Metanoia Youth. We have them, some of them do nails, some of them are doing the chocolate hearts and the chocolate strawberries and stuff. And those, that is a talent from God, because honestly, I tried doing it and it did not work out, okay?
Yeah.
The chocolate wasn't even good, and I'm I go buy strawberries from other people, and I'm these taste and look so good. I don't know what you do or what you put on them, but that's a blessing right there. And truly, when we are young, we have so much time to worship God.
Yeah.
And especially now, honestly, if we were to take an hour away from TikTok, we give that hour to God, so many things could change.
Yeah.
Because we're showing that he is first in our life.
Yeah.
Sometimes things might not change for us, and maybe instead of having a season of constant change, we're seeing maybe that nothing's changing.
Yeah. And
that might be because maybe we don't have God first.
Yeah.
And we have to take a step back and realize who is our priority. Is social media being our priority currently? Is work being our priority? Is school being our priority? Is God our priority? We should ask ourselves that. Are we spending enough time with him? We've shared before, it's important to get his word. It's important to pray. It's important to really just seek after God, especially in these times, because there's so many things being said, so many things being posted, and so many things changing around us. Now they just announced that the shelter in place in all California, it's no longer a thing. Now we have just we're back in the purple tier. But see, that can change any day.
Yeah.
So while things are changing constantly around us, we need to put our faith in the only thing that is going to be firm, which is God. And because honestly, at this point, things are going to change all the time. We saw that the shelter in place we had, supposedly they didn't have a date for it to end. And yesterday they announced that we have no more shelter in place, that now we have just the purple tier. But then again, in a week, they can come in and say hey, we're back in shelter in place, you guys have to quarantine. So many things around us are constantly being changed. We're constantly seeing things be different for us. But that is why tonight we wanted to bring up the topic of just change, what it is and how we deal with it. We want to give a shout out to all you guys who are tuning in from Oakley, Brentwood, Concord, California, Brazil. Okay, crazy. We've had people tune in from Brazil. Remember, you guys can call us at 925-384-0049. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. 925-384-0049. Or you can even DM us on our Instagram at Let's Be Real TSCC, at Let's Be Real TSCC. Or tune in, you guys. Like Luis was sharing earlier, you know, we have our Spotify, we have our Apple Podcast. Funny enough, like, I know I do the podcast and everything, but I listen to it all the time. Like, I go back to the podcast on Spotify, and like I'll be cleaning or whatever, and I'll just be listening to it because it's that good. It's that good that I get the joy of tuning into it again. Yeah. So I really encourage you guys to share with your friends, share with your family members. Like, maybe you're too afraid to like tell them something, but if there's a podcast that you think would bless them, hey, don't forget to share it with them. To grow our family, we love to hear from you guys. You know, we did the Q&A, and we definitely want to have more of that in the future, but that's not possible without your guys' support and your guys' help and love. So we love you guys for that. Make sure you tune in. Shout out to Caesar who's tuning in today as well.
I know if you guys didn't notice, there's a guy missing today. We have a guy missing. And Caesar wasn't able to make it, but I know he's listening. He's tuned in, and he's here in the spirit.
Amen. He's here in the spirit, ready. See things change tonight. Yeah, that wasn't on purpose, but God knew things changed. Okay, so. Sometimes when we experience change, you guys, going back to the topic, it can be overwhelming, confusing, even terrifying. And, you know, because as humans, we have made, I think, the topic of change such a taboo topic. Like, oh, things are changing. Like, oh my gosh. Like, even in our culture. And I think it has a lot to do with, like, where we come from as well. Because I know being a Hispanic, there's such a culture of like women have to do this, men have to do this, and like you grow up and you have to be like the woman of the house, like you don't have to go to college. Oh, hey, it seems like we're getting a call today. Let's see who it's from. Okay. Let's see.
Hello? Who is this? Who do we have the pleasure of speaking with today?
Who are we speaking to today?
Hello?
Yeah, hello? We can hear you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, guys. Me again, with Caesar. Want to start you guys out. You guys doing amazing.
Thank you. How are you doing today, Caesar? You working?
Yeah, bro. We had a pretty rough day at work. Just coming out of it. But the Lord's been good, and He's faithful. We're on our way back home now.
That's good, bro. You're able to, now rest. But, I mean, we miss you, bro. we just got here, me and Gabby. But, I mean, yeah, next week for sure.
Lord willing, you'll be here next week, and we'll be able to talk even more about change, okay?
Yeah, we'll let the Lord change your heart and stir you up so you won't miss it anymore. Just fun.
Good. All right, fellas. Well, I love you guys. I love everybody who's listening. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight, but like we said, I'm there spiritually. I'm not dead yet, right? But,
yeah.
Yeah, God bless you guys, okay?
All right, bro. We love you. We miss you. Have a safe drive.
Sure,
all right.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Well, that was Caesar calling. I think he heard us getting him in trouble for not being here, so he probably called to say hi. But thank you for tuning in. We hope you can make it next week. It's weird. It really is. I think when you're used to having somebody here, to talk, because don't get me wrong, it's gonna be a fun time tonight.
Yeah, for sure.
But when there's a community that we've built, and I think it's very nice to be able to share that. But hey, thank you so much for calling. We love you. We miss you. And we're talking about change.
Yeah.
Okay, so we all encounter major changes in our individual lives, but the world is constantly changing around us. So think about it, we're having our own changes in our own personal life, and then changes happening around us as well. So it's something that is constantly changing, but the truth is there's one thing that never changes, the one thing that stays the same, our unchanging God.
Yeah.
And I love that. And as I was studying, preparing for tonight, it really spoke to me that we have an unchanging God, because we've talked about like miracles before. We've talked about like who God is for us. You know, He is our provider. He is our healer. He is our redeemer. He is the one who restores us. And to think that I read these stories in the Bible, and that same God that parted the Red Sea, that same God, you know, who took people out of captivity, the same God who healed blind people, like that is the same God that I worship today.
Amen.
And I love that, because sometimes life around us can get so hectic because so many things are constantly like on the go, moving and stuff. But that, I think, was a beautiful reminder that our God is unchanging. Yeah. And the God that you and I worship is unchanging. And He is there for us, and He will be there for us always. So I think that's beautiful. And that's what I want to remind you guys tonight. Who your God is.
Yeah.
Who your God is. He is an unchanging God, okay? So I don't know what you need from God, what you desire from God, or how you feel in this moment. Maybe you feel weak in your faith, weak in your spirit. Maybe you feel like you've failed God. But let me tell you, that same God who forgave in the past, that same God who loved in the past, is the same God that you and I are worshiping today, and the same God that we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
That He is unchanging, even though the world around us is. And it can be overwhelming, because right now, I know we've mentioned statistics before, but this is like crazy how we've seen such a rise in number of people that are struggling with like depression, anxiety.
Yeah.
And if we really look at what these things are, anxiety is like being nervous about the future, right? About like changes or like just uncertainties that can happen in the future. And depression is like letting things from the past like get to you, right? So, but when we see that our God is unchanging, and we focus on life in the present because we know who holds our future, then we'll be okay. Well, you can still have moments when we'll struggle, and when we will feel like shame or guilty or just like bad, right? But our God will be right there to pick us up and to show us. Maybe you feel like you haven't been bold enough in your faith about God.
Yeah.
Maybe you feel like you haven't given everything to God as you should, you know, because I know when I was younger, it happened to me many times where I would come to church, and they would, funny enough, they would talk about how we need to change for God, and we need to like truly surrender and stop living like a life of games for God or whatever. And I remember coming, but like nothing changing. I would just leave the same and whatever. But it came one day that I realized that things really needed to change.
Yeah.
That there needed to be something different, because I couldn't just play games anymore with God. It was either you're all in or you're all out, you know, and the Bible speaks of that. You know, we can't be, there's no such thing as lukewarm, okay? Like, you have to be either, like, passionate for God or no. Like, there's no in between. So, in our faith, there's going to be many instances where we'll have to make that decision, where we'll have to truly decide, like, are we really going to, you know, change things for God, or are we going to stay the same and, like, whatever, right? But I don't know if you have any story of like where you had to go through a change and how you dealt with it, or what helped you get through it, I guess.
Well, basically, when I was starting, you know, to serve God, there's basically, I was serving in the youth, you know, helping out with the lead team, you know, greeting and all this stuff. But I was a shy kid when I first came to this church. I always struggled with speaking with people or being open and greeting people. I didn't know how to talk to people. I was always nervous, the nervous type. And I don't know, I guess I had that desire to serve, but I was always... I just desired that change. And so I would pray to God, like, you know, God, I want to serve you, but I need you to change this. Give me boldness, take away my shyness, and, you know, just allow me to be more bold about the things that I do for you. And also, I was also speaking, you know, with Gabby and telling her about how this generation and today, many are, you know, anxious, they're depressed, they have stress. And I was bringing up how many of us are stressed out because we compare our lives to others. You know, we see on social media how others are already getting married, others are having kids that are our age, there are people moving out, you know, and we feel like we need to accomplish certain things in certain time frames. And like I know, I was sharing that there was a meme that said how there was a Hispanic that was 23 years old, but he wasn't married yet, he didn't have his 4 kids yet, and so they said that he's considered a failure. He has failed his Hispanic community because he's not like the rest of the Hispanics.
Which is so not true, by the way, okay? Like, there's just this stereotype about, like, getting married at a certain age or whatever. But, I mean, that's not true, you guys. Like, everything happens in God's time. God's perfect timing, you know? And you shouldn't feel that way. If you feel that way, don't feel that way.
Definitely not. But yeah, I was looking into that. And then also, I know myself currently as well, like, you know, there's times where you compare your life with other people, you know, like, I feel like it's just the enemy working in you, because I know for me, like I said, I'm in school, but I also spend most of my life here at church, you know, serving in the different ministries. And sometimes, you know, the enemy tries to get in my head saying like, look, your friends are out here living their life, living the dream life, having all this free time, you know, going out, getting food together, making memories, and you're just they're stuck at church. And, you know, sometimes it gets to my head, but then, you know, God reminds me of the better life that I have. If I think about it, you know, because of church, I was able to grow as a person, you know. Because of church, I was able to learn different things. Like right now, I'm learning about, you know, the radio. I've never touched the radio my entire life, but I am here, you know, learning about how to manage a radio station, how to put the volume up, how to put people's voices in, you know. I've learned, you know, how to set up for a Sunday service, you know, set up speakers, plug in, you know, the cables needed, how to set up all the instruments and all these things that require for a service to go on. I've also, you know, learned how to deal with the youth, how to speak to them, how to approach them, how to work with the team. And so that also helps me in my, you know, I guess you could say professional career life, because you grow those people skills or social skills.
Yeah, those social skills.
And so in a sense, like, I see that God has blessed me in that, because I have, you know, served him and remained faithful to him. He has blessed me and given me, you know, these things. He's taught me all these different things. I've grown. I was able to, you know, make an impact on certain people's lives, and I want to continue doing that, because if I was with my friends, you know, probably doing, you know, whatever they do, you know, making bad mistakes or bad decisions, you know, I wouldn't have really made an impact on people's lives in a positive way. I would have probably made it, you know, the opposite way, probably done bad things that would have made a bad impact. And so I give thanks to God that he's allowed me to come into his path, see how important it is to serve a God that is still making miracles and still alive and alive in my heart as well.
Amen.
But yeah, I just want to, you know, I'd give you guys some advice. Like, you know, if you guys are feeling that, not depression, but that stress of, you know, my life is not making that timeline, or that date, finish line, whatever it is, you know, that I have to get married at this age, I have to have kids at this age.
Or you have to finish school at a certain age.
Yeah, like, just slow down, you know, life is...
Breathe for a second.
Just enjoy life, because I know for me as well, like, I was going through a moment where I wanted, you know, to get a job. I wanted to start working because, you know, I'm a graduate, and if I don't graduate without a job, you know, I was thinking all these things in my head, but I'm like, all right, so what? I graduate, I don't have a job. What's going to happen? I still live with my parents. My parents are going to help me. They're going to support me. They're going to help me find a job, you know. God will bring a job whenever the time comes, but you just got to be patient, trust in God. God will bring, you know, whatever it is that he knows you need, because sometimes we feel like we need to have this right now, but honestly, like, it's not that important. It's not going to benefit you in any way.
And there's this stigma around, like, having things at a certain age, and that's not true, you know. Sadly, social media and sadly, like, even, like, TV shows and stuff like that have, I think, showed us that you have to, like, have a relationship, like you were saying earlier, like 15, 16, 17 years old, or you have to get married by like 20 something, especially if you're a Christian.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to get married when you're like 21 or whatever.
Yeah.
And the reality is you don't, guys. Like everyone is in their own season of life. Everyone has gone through different things. Everyone has learned different things at a certain age. So you can't expect everyone to be like mature, you know, at a certain age, because depending like on what you've gone through or like the struggles that you've had and overcome with the help of God, he has shown you different skills. So maybe like you were saying, you now work with the youth and stuff, and you've been able to learn more social skills. I too, when I was younger, I actually started doing the radio when I was 12, and I didn't learn how to use it till I was like 16.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember learning how to do it, and even for me, I've been teaching since I was younger, so it has helped me speak in public, which funny enough is like the number one fear of like the whole world. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah. So I'm like grateful with God, you know. Has it been hard? Yeah, but definitely. I've been able to learn, and you know, through all these different seasons of my life that I've experienced, some were harder, some were easier than others, but I've learned, and I'm grateful for God because of that. Because I've grown as a person, and I appreciate genuinely this season of COVID and like everything, because I have never spent so much time with God, with my family, with my friends. Not that I should spend time with my friends, right? But even in church, I'm so much more grateful that we have a church now.
Yeah. Because
we have to set up the instruments every Sunday and then put them back down. And now it's like I realize, hey, this is a privilege.
Yeah.
Like I'm healthy enough to help them carry whatever it is to set up and like set it back down. I'm, you know, healthy enough to be able to come and worship even though it's cold outside. Yeah. Hey, my health is good enough for me able to come and worship God from my car, you know? Yeah, so all these are really privileges that we should like be grateful for and learn from. At the end of the day, that's where we're here. We're here to learn from all the experience that we've had. And if you see other people going through something, to encourage them and to tell them about God. Like that is your opportunity to share God with them and tell them like, hey, can I show you about God? I remember Caesar said that one program, like, what was it? Like,
can I tell you about the Lord?
Can I tell you about the Lord? With some attitude? Yes, tell me about the Lord.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But honestly, in this day and age, with social media, it's so easy to spread the gospel. Yeah. I love seeing on social media young people like sharing devotionals or sharing stuff like that. And I think to myself, if they can, why can't I?
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
It's so easy to start a podcast, by the way, too. Like, I know we were blessed enough to have, like, Radio Innovación, which was already established since, like, 2012, 2013. Mm-hmm. But I looked into that, like, Anchor app that you're using, right?
Yeah.
And, like, you could just apply to have a podcast. Yeah. Like, you just need a microphone and, like, some friends.
Even your phone, you could just record it on your phone and just upload that audio.
Yeah.
It's there,
So, like, God wants to use us.
Yeah.
God really wants to use us and allow us to grow. And we just have to be ready and willing for that. Willing for that change in our life. Because, see, when God truly comes in our life has to be different. Our life cannot be the same.
Yeah.
Because when you're living in the world, or when you're, like, accepting, I don't know, like, the temptations of the world, like, you kind of put God aside and you're like, okay, like, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But when you truly, like, worship God and you truly seek God, you notice that in your life, you cannot live the same way.
Yeah.
You cannot go about life the same way. Why? Because you see that there's something to live for now.
Yeah.
That it's not just you have a purpose to fulfill in this world. God has a plan for you. God has something so precious for your life, and now is your time to, like, be able to share that with everyone else. Now is the time to be able to share your talent, to share your gift, to share what it is that God has given over your life. Because it's something so unique that God gave you.
Yeah.
He didn't just give that to anybody. Like, there's no other Luis in this world like you, Luis.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. There could be other guys named Luis, but I can assure you they won't have the same spiritual gifts as you.
Yeah.
In the same way, there's no other Gabby like me,
Yeah.
okay? There's might be other Gabbies.
It might be a doppelganger, but they're probably still different.
But still different.
Yeah.
Did you know my dad's a twin, right?
Okay.
And like, it's so funny because I feel like they're complete opposites, but they're twins. They're
That's crazy.
identical twins, and they look alike. My sister, when she was younger, she would confuse them. Used to scare her, like they used to dress the same,
Yeah.
and she used to look, and they'd be like, "Come here," and then she'd go
that's
with one of them,
iconic.
and then like, "Come here." So she has like PTSD
Yeah.
from like trying to figure out who her dad
She has
is.
trust issues now.
Yeah, she has trust issues, but no, I'm just kidding. She's completely fine.
That's good. No, but I also wanted to talk on that, you know, how you're talking about how many people, you know, try to live for the world and others, you know, doing good. And I actually have a verse for that as well that I wanted to show.
Go for
And
it.
it
Go
was
for it.
in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verses 8 through 10. And it says, verse 8, whoever sows to please their flesh, from the flesh will reap destruction. Whoever sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest, and if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. And as you can see, you know, many of us, the enemy makes it attractive, you know, to live for the world, to live these fleshly desires and you know, do these crazy things, you know. But if we see those that are living for the world, sometimes, you know, like it said right there, living for the flesh will reap destruction. Many, you know, because of the sins that they're created, of the bad decisions that they've made, you know, it's cost them their lives, or it's cost them to get paralyzed. It's cost them a bad, how do you say it? A punishment, I guess you could say.
Consequence.
To their actions. And so why, you know, try to live for the world and live to please your flesh when you know there's going to be a consequence? Everything has a consequence, like it says in the word as well. But, you know, living for God there's no other better thing than living for God, because God, you know, like we were mentioning earlier, he brings you these different gifts, and he allows you to bear these fruits, and those fruits, you know, will bless others. Like I know many of us are able to teach, like for those who know instruments, we're able to teach others, and from those gifts that we know, we're able to pass it down to other people, and those will be fruits that, you know, we're able to, you know, be teachers and have students, and then they could pass it on to their students, and so forth and so on. And so it's just a chain reaction. But living for God is a good thing. God will, you know, bring blessings to your life, and he will bless your generations and the generations to come. And so, you know,
you got it.
Just living for God, you know, living for God is amazing, and there is no reason to regret, you know, because I know many youth, they regret, you know, like, why don't I just, you know, live for the world right now that I'm young, and later on, you know, I'll come back to the feet of God and ask for forgiveness. But you never know when God's coming, or when.
And tomorrow's not promised.
Tomorrow's
the time
not
is
promised.
now, honestly, to worship and seek God. The time is now. When you are young, you just have so much more opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, even when you're dating, I feel like you don't have enough time for God than when you're single.
Yeah.
You know, like when you're single, like it's just you and God, and that's it. But like once you have, I'm not saying like being in a relationship is bad, or like,
definitely.
you know, having other things. Like, no, like completely, like that's normal and it's fine and it's a part of life. But I think that's why the Bible specifies it's such a beautiful thing to worship God in your singleness.
Yeah.
Because it truly is just you and God. You can give all your time to God. You can give, you know, like your whole heart devotedly to him, because it's just you and him. So it's a great opportunity to really seek God and give him your best. I know that I didn't come to God till I was like I knew him probably, like I started coming to church when I was like 10, right? But I honestly didn't start serving till I was like 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, dang, imagine if I would have done it when I was like 10.
Yeah.
Imagine how much more could I have done for God. Imagine where I'd be spiritually right now if I would have started from like 10 years old.
Yeah.
So honestly, like if you're listening, if you're tuning in tonight and you are like debating, like, you know, should I live for God? 100% you should.
Definitely.
it's so sad because I hear even from Christians that have been in like Christian for a while, they're like, it's fine, like I can go and like party and live in the world on Saturday and I'll just come to church on Sundays.
Yeah.
But like you shared, well, technically tomorrow's not promised, and like what if God comes today? What if he comes tomorrow? Like what are you going to say then? What's going to be your excuse?
Yeah.
Living for God is so much more fulfilling than people think.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that, you know, it's like boring, or that I've heard it. Like I've heard people say like Christians are so boring, and like there's no good music to listen to, or there's like you can't have fun. But that is not true at all. Come to Metanoia Youth and see how much fun we have, okay? Like we've had so much fun at our summer camps at Collide. Even here on Sundays, how we get to worship God and just be free. You know, there's nothing that compares to that. There's nothing that really, there's no words to express the joy that comes from serving the Lord. And the reward that one day will be received because of worshiping God. Maybe here in the world we see that it might not be all fulfilling or whatever, because honestly the world can be very, very tempting sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe being, you know, at a party on Saturday or on Sunday instead of going to church sounds fun, or maybe drinking or dancing or whatever sounds fun, but all of that is temporary.
Yeah.
And all of that does is satisfy our flesh. It doesn't satisfy our spirit. And the only one who can satisfy our spirit, our soul, is our Savior. The one who created us, our Creator, because he knows the ins and outs. The Bible says that he knows every strand on our head. This is super funny and like dumb. I don't know, I did it one day, right? I had long hair. Like if you knew me when I was younger, I had really, really long hair. And one day, crazy Gabby just thought, why not count all the strands in my hair? I got to a really large number, but then I lost count and I gave up.
That's crazy. No, that's not enough. Or trying to count the little things from sand, like you're never gonna finish.
Heck no, you're like 1, 2, 1,000.
That's just a handful. Imagine the whole beach. You're crazy.
I know. You couldn't even like spend your life doing that. You would never finish. You would never finish counting those little things.
No.
But oh my gosh, like it truly, going back to worshiping and serving God, it is an honor to worship him. And like I've had an experience that I want to share.
Yeah.
So here at Templo Santo Community Church, we had an old youth pastor, I guess that you could say.
Yeah. And
there was many times where we had those people step down. And I want to share this experience because I want to share the perspective of a young person, which I wasn't completely serving yet. I was kind of just in church. I was involved. But how it affected me. Because I was putting my eyes on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So I remember this particular youth pastor left. And I was heartbroken. I was so sad. I didn't expect things to change. I was like, what? Like she's gonna be our youth pastor forever, you know? Like, oh my gosh, right? And I remember like this person came and talked to me like, hey, like I'm gonna be leaving, and I have nothing against this church, nothing, like I love it, like it's my time to step down. And I remember thinking like, God, why would you do that? Like, why would you put me through this if I'm not ready? Like, why would you do this to hurt me?
Yeah.
And I remember like praying and thinking like, God didn't do it to hurt us.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of God who he is. He does it to help us grow.
Yeah.
And honestly, I am so grateful that what God taught me, because God taught me through that person to never put my eyes on a person.
Yeah.
But to put my eyes on God and to trust him, and for that everything that I do and that I serve, I do for him and for him only. And because of that, like, glory to God, I'm a youth leader now. And like, we're youth leaders now.
That's crazy.
So to think like where I came from and now where God has me.
Yeah.
If you're going through a season of like things changing, if you're going through a season of like not understanding what God is doing, trust him.
Yeah.
Trust him, because he is working, just like that song says.
Yeah.
Even when I don't see it, you're working. It's true. when we least see it, when we least expect it, God is working everything out. And he's not just working things out, he's working things out for our good. The Bible says that.
Yeah.
So it's so beautiful that we can trust our God, because our God is great. Our God is mighty, and our God is, he works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, definitely.
In ways that we will never understand. But I could tell you that he really does work in mysterious ways. And I don't know if you, I know you went through that same experience. I don't know, like, did that experience maybe teach you anything in particular? Or, like, do you feel that you maybe grew, or? Definitely,
yeah. Like, I know I've been here for a while. I've been here in Templo Santo since 2012, I believe. And ever since, you know, I've seen, you know, people come, people go. And like you said, they started stepping down. And sometimes, you know, it gets discouraging because you're like, wow, like, you know, they are the leaders, they're the ones that are the most spiritual, and for them to, you know, leave, like it kind of like makes you question, like, so what about us, you know, like for us that aren't that prepared. And at that time I wasn't really that spiritually mature, you know. I was coming to church, but I wasn't really seeking God like I am now. And to be honest, like, I never felt that I was going to be a leader. I never thought I was going to, you know, bring devotionals to the youth. I never thought anything about myself. I was, yes, on the worship team, but I think that to myself, I was like, that's all I'm going to do, you know, here at church. But I mean, God, you know, he puts like, you in places. So he puts you in places that will make you grow. And uncomfortable, and he will challenge you. And because he says he knows your limit, he knows how far you can go, and so he puts things in your path that he knows that you will be able to overcome. But yeah, like Gabby was saying, there comes a moment of discouragement, but also, you know, like she was saying, it taught me as well to not put my eye on man, because, you know, there's leaders getting discouraged, and I was just like, God, like, I want you to put somebody, you know, that's passionate for the youth, somebody that's in love with the youth, somebody that won't give up, right?
And then God's like,
then he's like, here comes this batch of young people, you know? And I'm just like, dang, that's crazy. It kind of got me, you know, shook and scared, but you know what? Like, I've seen a lot and I've learned a lot. God has put it in my heart, you know, that the youth, you know, is important, especially right now in this generation. Many churches go through struggles and through challenges, and, you know, some even close down. And I feel like for us, you know, if God put it in our hearts to be serving, it's for us to, you know, make that change, to not let the same things keep happening, you know, because it might be a cycle. Many people might see it as a cycle. Oh, it's normal, it's going to keep happening. Like,
we are here to break chains, to help break chains, you know, and generational curses. Like, I see in families even that, like, people are like trying to come to church, but then they get discouraged. Like, the time is now. Like, I know I've seen it in my family where my dad and I are the only ones that come to church. So I remember coming to church, like, as a younger person, when I was like 14, 15, and thinking to myself, like, I want something different for my kids. I want something different for when I'm older. Like, I come to church and I want something different. And I know this generation, I love to see it, because I see, like, this generation is so, like, bold.
Yeah.
So bold. On TikTok, like, the things I be seeing, I'm like, that is really our generation, okay?
That's crazy,
Because they're just so ready to speak up about injustice. They're so ready to speak out about, like, things that are happening. They're so ready to speak out even about their faith.
Yeah.
And even though, you know, people might say this is a generation that is going to, like, ruin anything, because a lot of people say this generation is really bad.
Yeah.
But honest to God, like, this generation, I think, is one of the most loving and accepting generations that we have ever seen in existence. You know, I like to see back at history, and right now, I love seeing on TikTok where they do, like, Venmo challenges to, like, help people off the streets.
That's great.
To help people, like, get apartments, to help people that don't have jobs, like, feed their families. Like, seeing people be so selfless, seeing people be so loving, seeing people really display the love of God, display Him, because He is love.
Yeah.
And to see that is truly a joy in my heart that I can't explain. But it's great because we see that this generation is so willing to change the norm.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys ever saw our bio, but our bio is we really want to change the rules of normalities of like what is normal,
Yeah.
right? Because as believers, we're meant to not be normal. We're meant to be different. We're meant to be the change, the difference in this world. And this generation is going to be the next church,
Yeah.
right? They're going to be the next deacons, the next pastors, the next leaders, the next preachers, the next musicians, the next ushers. Like, this is why we need to focus so much on our young people, because they are the ones that are like the next church,
Yeah.
right? So we need to invest our precious time in them. And this is why we encourage you, young person, if you're tuning in tonight to Let's Be Real, we encourage you to use your spiritual gift.
Yeah.
Because God is not done with you yet. God is not done with you yet. So trust Him, and even though things around you might be uncertain right now and you might feel a certain way, know that you have an unchanging God. Remember that. An unchanging God that is for you. Is for you. So
Yeah.
I love that. It's crazy. It's already 8:27 or 8:28. I don't know like what clock are we?
29 on this one, but
29?
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so thank you so much for tuning in then. We love you guys. Make sure you tune in for next week. This is Let's Be Real, radioinnovacion.com, your radio, your blessing with Gabriela.
Love that say Caesar. He's here spiritually. But yeah, it's here. Luis as well. We love you guys, and tune in for next Tuesday. We'll bring you guys a different message.
Amen, amen. Bye-bye.